Hello friends, today in this lecture, what are the learning objective? So the learning objective is why we can get broadband and UV visible spectroscopy for the molecule. Second one is we can get absorbance spectra with the help of Beer-Lambert's law. So basic principle that we need to learn. The third thing is once we get the absorbance spectra, there are certain terms are there in UV visible spectroscopy. Those are chromophore, oxochrome, hyperchromic shift, bathochromic shift, hypochromic shift and hypsochromic shift. And the last one, that is a choice of solvent in UV visible spectroscopy and what are the different effect or parameter affected to the choice of solvent that we need to learn in UV visible spectroscopy. So now let's start with the first one, why we can get broadband in the UV visible spectroscopy. So according to learning objective, we start with the origin and nature of UV spectra. Here we should know that UV atomic spectra consist of very sharp line, while molecular UV spectra give broad bands covering a wide range of wavelength, because in atom there is a specific wavelength absorbance. Whenever we are talking about the molecule, in this there is a wide range of wavelength which is absorbed, and that's why it gives me a broadband. This because each electronic transition level or energy level consists of superimposed rotational and vibrational levels. Hence, a molecule undergoes electronic transition as well as vibrational and rotational transitions. Because of these transitions, so many possible transitions each differing from each other and slightly take place, giving rise to electronic transitions consisting of a vast number of closely spaced lines, and this result into broadband. One more thing, that is if temperature is lower down, then rotational energy transfer process are slowed down or stopped in a collection of molecules, and thus fine structures that we can obtain. Here you can perfectly see that rotational energy have a very small energy gap. So for the transition they require very less amount of energy. But for vibrational we require more amount of energy compared to rotational, because the energy gap between these two is very large, and after that we can find it out the very large band gap between the electronic transitions, and those are superimposed through the vibrational as well as rotational level. So here we can understand that why we can get broadband in UV visible spectra for a molecule. Now the next thing that I would like to tell you, the one according to electromagnetic spectrum, UV visible radiation has higher amount of energy compared to IR and microwave. So in IR we can get vibrational transition, and in microwave we can get rotational transitions. So if we can apply UV visible energy, then at the same time the vibrational as well as rotational excitation is there, and that's why we get broadband in UV visible spectroscopy of a molecule. So now let's move to understand Lambert-Beer's law. The Beer-Lambert law states that there is a linear relationship between the concentration and the absorbance of a solution, which enables the concentration of a solution to be calculated by measuring its absorbance. So here we can perfectly see that the equation A is equal to epsilon C into L, where A stands for absorbance, epsilon stands for molar absorption coefficient, C stands for molar concentration of the solution, and L stands for optical path length. Here the epsilon value, which is perfectly depends on the wavelength of incident radiation and the absorbing medium, where epsilon value which is lower than the 10⁻³ mole or 10⁻³, then we can consider low transition probability and that transition which is forbidden. And if the epsilon value which is higher than the 10⁻⁴, then it gives me high intensity band. Now we can see the second equation, in which log base 10 I0 upon I is equal to epsilon into C into L. So here I0, which stands for intensity of incident light, and intensity of transmitted light is equal to I. So whenever we fill up our solution in a cuvette, the certain amount of radiation which is absorbed by the solute and remaining radiation which is transmitted, and that is detected by the detector. This solution we can fill up in the cuvette, and cuvette, there are two types of cuvettes are there. One is glass cuvette and one is quartz. So whenever we analyze our sample in the glass cuvette, we should not use the UV region. Otherwise glass can easily absorb UV radiation, and that's why certain amount of light which is absorbed or radiation which is absorbed by the glass, and that's why it create problem or defects in the sample analysis. So we cannot get the perfect absorption maxima for our sample. So this is all about the Lambert-Beer law. The terms we understood or we try to understand according to UV visible spectroscopy. Now the first term is chromophore, in which unsaturated functional groups are present. So group such as azo, nitro, cyano, etc. when attached with a saturated system, and absorption is due to pi to pi star transitions. Hence such groups are called chromophores. So here we can easily understand or we can easily remember what are the chromophores. Those are unsaturated or they contain double bond or triple bond. Second thing, auxochrome. The functional groups like OH, NH2 or halogen element or salt forming groups etc. which contain non-bonding electron pair undergo n2 pi star transitions are called auxochrome. So when they attach with chromophoric system, they change the intensity as well as band of pi to pi star of chromophores. So here we can get two different example, aniline and phenol. So here whenever benzene ring attach with the aniline or amine group or benzene ring attach with the OH group, so here they contain lone pair of electron, and due to that what happen, intensity of the benzene or intensity of the particular band which is increased as well as the band which is shift towards the longer wavelength. So phenol we can get color compound. Certain more terms we are going to study. The first term, that is a bathochromic shift. Now when absorption shift towards the higher wavelength, it is called bathochromic shift. So whenever you are going to take a spectra of any compound and bond a band which is shift towards the longer wavelength, that is called bathochromic shift. The second one is hypsochromic shift. So suppose if you are going to take a substance, dissolve in certain solvent, and the band which is shift towards the shorter wavelength, then we can consider that shift as a hypsochromic shift, or we can consider as a blue shift. The third one is hyperchromic shift. Here the increase in the intensity of absorption band is known as hyperchromic shift, and the same way hypochromic shift, here the decrease in the intensity of absorption band which is known as hypochromic shift. So these are the four effects we can find it out in the absorbance. So whenever peak shift towards the longer wavelength, we can consider bathochromic shift. Whenever peak shift towards the shorter wavelength, we can consider hypsochromic shift. Whenever only intensity of the band which is increased but the lambda max remains same, then we can consider hyperchromic shift. And the same way, if intensity decrease of the peak, then we can consider hypochromic shift. Now the choice of solvent. In UV visible spectroscopy, the choice of an appropriate solvent is depend on the following factors, because certain factors which affect whenever we are using UV visible spectroscopy to analyze our sample. So which are the factors? So now start with our first point, that solvent should not absorb in the same region as the sample being analyzed. That means solvent and solute both cannot absorb the same wavelength of light, or same absorption maxima we cannot get. So once they interfere with each other, sometimes it may affect the result to find out the sample absorption maxima, and that's why we need to use certain different types of solvent like 95% ethanol, normal hexane, water and methanol, because they have absorption maxima value which is nearly cutoff point or below the cutoff point, and that's why they do not interfere with the absorption maxima of our sample. Generally in UV visible spectroscopy, normal hexane and 95% ethanol are most commonly used solvent. One more thing which I want to include, whenever we are using our solvent, that should not contain conjugated system, because if conjugation is present in the solvent, then the energy difference between the HOMO to LUMO which is less, and that's why the wavelength must be higher, and that's why it may affect our sample absorbing value. The next one is There are two types of solvents we can use in our UV visible spectroscopy to analyze sample. The one is non-polar solvent and one is polar solvent. According to non-polar solvent, if we talk, then it does not form a hydrogen bond with a solute, and that's why we can get a sharp band, and that we can easily see in the following graph. And if we are using polar solvent for a sample, then it forms hydrogen bond, and due to that it will interact with the solvent and solute, and that's why we can get broadband. Following graph which we take for the carbonyl derivative or compound which we consider just like acetone. So if we use polar solvent, then we can get broadband, but if we can use non-polar solvent, then we can get sharp band because it does not form hydrogen bond with the solute molecule. Now we next move towards the pi to pi star transition and n to pi star transition, because these two transitions are most commonly used in UV visible spectroscopy because they have a less amount of energy, and that's why they can give a good spectra in the UV region. But whenever we are talking about the sigma to sigma star and n to sigma star transitions, they have higher amount of energy compared to those two transitions, and that's why we can get band at a shorter wavelength. So now let's start for pi to pi star transitions for non-polar solvent and polar solvent. So in the first case, if we take non-polar solvent, so here we can consider first of all pi, which is a less polar or non-polar ground state, where the pi star, which is a more polar excited state. So here the ground state, which is a non-polar, and if we are using in the first case non-polar solvent, then the interaction between the ground state and non-polar solvent is higher, and that's why the amount of energy required for the excitation of an electron, that is much more. And if we talk about second case in which pi is also non-polar but we are using polar solvent, so polar solvent and the ground state which is a non-polar, and that's why there is not much more interaction between the ground state and the solvent, and that's why we can easily migrate electron from the lower energy level to higher energy level. So here we can perfectly see the difference in the energy, where non-polar solvent, in which for the excitation we require more amount of energy, but for polar solvent the energy difference between pi to pi star which is a less, and that's why here lambda max value which is shift towards the longer wavelength, or we can consider bathochromic shift, that we can get in polar solvent for pi to pi star transitions. Now we move for n to pi star transitions, in which ground state which is a more polar compared to excited state. So here again there are two cases are there, one which is a non-polar and one which is a polar solvent. If we are using if we study the first case in which we are using non-polar solvent, and we talk that ground state which contain non-bonding electron pair which is a polar, and that's why non-polar and polar the interaction is less, and that's why the amount of energy required for the excitation of an electron, that is also less, and that's why the bond shift towards the longer wavelength. But if we are talking about the polar solvent, then we studied already that polar solvent can easily form hydrogen bond with the solute molecule, and the same thing is happen here. If we are taking some carbonyl derivative just like acetone, okay, so once it react with the polar solvent, it forms a hydrogen bond, and due to that its stability which is increase, and the stability increase, and that's why energy decrease, and energy decrease in the ground state. So the length from the ground state to excited state which is increased, that means what, the energy which is increased here, and that you can clearly see in here that energy difference increases. So if energy is increased in the polar solvent, and that's why band shift towards the shorter wavelength. So if you increase the polarity, bond which is shift towards the shorter wavelength. So n2 pi star and n2 sigma star both are very sensitive whenever we are using polar solvent, because they can easily form hydrogen bond, and that's why the amount of energy required for them it is a higher, and that's why band which is shift towards the shorter wavelength. Here you can perfectly see in this graph or in the picture that energy that we require for the non-polar solvent which is less, and energy which is required for the polar solvent which is higher, and that's why the lambda max of the non-polar solvent which is at longer wavelength, and lambda max which is for polar solvent which is very short. So here we can conclude this choice of solvent when we are using pi to pi star transitions, and if you are using non-polar solvent, then the amount of energy is higher and that's why bond length is shorter. And for n2 pi star transition, when we are using non-polar solvent, here the amount of energy or difference in the energy which is less, and that's why wavelength is longer. So this is all about the choice of solvent, and that you can take example with acetone, or you can study with any other example. You can find the same types of difference in the absorption maximum of the sample. Now summary of this lecture: why we get broadband of a molecule in UV visible spectroscopy, and that you very well understand with the help of diagram in which electronic transition it has highest amount of energy, after that vibrational energy, and then third one is rotational energy, and all these possible transitions are there or occur whenever we apply the UV visible radiation, and that's why it gives me broadband. The second thing that we understood, Lambert-Beer's law and epsilon value, in which absorbance which is directly proportional to its concentration and optical path length, where you need to remember epsilon value, that is called molar absorptivity value, which is perfectly depends on the wavelength of incident light. The third thing that we understood, terms that we use in UV visible spectroscopy. The most important two terms are there, chromophore and auxochrome, because maximum student made a mistake in chromophore and auxochrome. So you can easily remember chromophores, those are unsaturated, and auxochrome, those are saturated, or they contain lone pair of electron or non-bonding pair of electron. The third one, that is the most important, solvent effect in UV visible spectroscopy. The basic things that you need to remember, that non-polar solvent does not form a hydrogen bond with the solute, and polar solvent forms a hydrogen bond with the solute, and that's why they give us broadband. So now, what are the learning outcome? So according to these lectures, you must give the answer why UV atomic spectra consist a sharp line. Second one, why UV molecular spectra give broadband. Third one, molar absorptivity epsilon value, which depends on, so you know this and you must give the answer. The fourth question is, why pi star transition is more polar in pi to pi star transitions and less polar in n2 pi star transition when we studied our solvent effect. So let me tell you that the first thing here, the basic thing is bond order. So if we are talking about the bond order, the equation is like this way: number of electron which are present in the BMO minus number of electron which are present in ABMO. That means what? Bonding molecular orbital which contains certain number of electron minus whatever number of electron which are present in the anti-bonding molecular orbital, that we have to deduct. After that we can get the bonding order or bond order. So when we are talking about pi to pi star transitions in solvent effect, pi is a perfectly non-polar, because suppose if you assume two electrons which are present in the ground state, at that time ABMO does not have any electron, and that's why if I put the equation, and according to that equation if I will get the answer, then 1/2 into bracket 2 minus 0, so I will get the answer 1. That means what? Bond order is 1. But if electron which are migrate from ground state to excited state, then here what happened? 1/2 in the bracket 2 minus 1, because one electron which is migrate from ground state to excited state. At that time what happened? The number of electron which are present in the BMO and ABMO. So now we get the answer of bond order which is less compared to previous one. So once all of you know very well, whenever bond order decrease, bond length increase, and bond length increase, that means what? It's a more polar, or it has certain dipole moment, and that's why we can say that compared in pi to pi star compared to pi star which is a more polar. So this is the basically answer. So now I conclude this lecture, and I think that this learning outcome which is very helpful for you. Here are some more examples which are very useful for the competitive exam. The first question, which of the following comparison is correct for solvent shift on the n2 pi star transition of acetone? So here you have three different solvents are there. One is water, one is ethanol and one is normal hexane. Out of three, two solvents are polar, and according to we studied solvent effect, N2 pi star transitions, which is more sensitive towards the polar solvent because it can easily form a hydrogen bond. Here water is a more polar than the ethanol, and that's why it can strongly form hydrogen bond with the acetone, and that's why the amount of energy required for the transition of an electron, it is more, and that's why lambda max value or absorption maxima, which is shift towards the shorter wavelength. As we go from ethanol, it slightly shift towards the longer wavelength because it is a less polar, and that's why it forms a hydrogen bond with the acetone, but compared to water molecule, it forms slightly weak hydrogen bond with the acetone molecule. And if we talk finally about the normal hexane, then it is a perfectly non-polar, and that's why it does not form hydrogen bond, and that's why the amount of energy whatever we require for the transition of an electron, that is very less, and that's why band shift towards the longer wavelength. So here this is your answer. Now the next one is, what is the correct order for the absorption maxima of N2 sigma star transitions? Again, N2 sigma star transitions which are more sensitive towards the polar solvent or polar molecule, and that's why once we use alcohol or amine, here alcohol which forms strong hydrogen bond because or it's due to its electronegativity. So here oxygen molecule which is more electronegative compared to nitrogen, and that's why it forms strong hydrogen bond with the solvent, and that's why the amount of energy that we require for the migration of an electron from the ground state to excited state, that is very high, and that's why band shift at shorter wavelength. So the answer is absorption maxima of alcohol is less than the absorption maxima of amines. Now the next question is again correlate with the same example. What is the correct order of absorption maxima for N2 sigma star transitions? You have again example here, non-polar compound. Those are alkyl halide, one is chloromethane and one is iodomethane, in which chlorine which is more electronegative than the iodine, and that's why the electron tightly bound with the particular molecule, and that's why it cannot easily, or the migration of electron, we require more amount of energy, and once you require more amount of energy, band which is shifted shorter wavelength. So here the lambda max value or absorption maxima, that is for methyl iodide, which is higher than the chloromethane. Now the next question, why a polar solvent shift pi to pi star transition to longer wavelength and N2 pi star transition to shorter wavelength? So once we use polar solvent and we are talking about the pi to pi star transitions, so pi which is a less polar and pi star which is a more polar, and that we studied in solvent effect. According to theory, we know that polar solvent and the ground state is non-polar, and that's why the interaction between those are very less, and that's why the amount of energy that we require in pi to pi star transitions which is very less, and that's why band which is shifted longer wavelength. But whenever we are talking about N2 pi star transition, and if we use polar solvent, then it forms a hydrogen bond, and due to hydrogen bond stability increase, also we know that energy that we require for the migration of electron here also higher, and that's why band which is shifted shorter wavelength. So this is the answer. Now next one is, in alkyne and alkene which give higher absorption value of pi to pi star transitions? The answer is very simple. Here it perfectly depends on the bond order. The bond order in alkyne which is a 3 and bond order in alkene which is a 2. So bond order which is correlate with the bond length. So if you have a less bond order, that means what bond length is higher, and bond length is higher, that means what slightly dipole moment change or polarity is more, and that's why the amount of energy that we require for the migration of electron which is very less. So whenever we are talking about the alkene, here we require less amount of energy for the migration of electron compared to alkyne, and that's why we can easily migrate electron, and that's why the absorption maxima of alkene which is higher than the alkyne. So this is all about our learning outcome which are very useful for the competitive exam. Thank you.